My mom likes you. Will you be my dad, human? The alien boy whispered Sci-Fi HFY. Elia's ward had learned that space stations never truly slept. Helioxgate drifted between three trade lanes, its metal spine glowing softly as ships arrived and departed at all hours. Lights dimmed and brightened in slow cycles meant to calm species with very different ideas of rest. For Elias, the quiet hours were his favorite. Fewer diplomats, fewer arguments, more time to simply exist. He stood near a wide viewport, hands clasped behind his back, watching a cargo freighter slide away into the stardark. From this angle, the stars looked close enough to touch, like cold sparks frozen in place. He reminded himself, as he often did, that humanity had once looked at those same stars with fear. Now they negotiated under them. Human Elias. The voice was small, soft, and careful. Elias turned and smiled before he even saw who it was. "Turin," he said, "you're up late." The alien boy stood a few steps away, shifting his weight the way he always did when he wasn't sure if he was welcome. Turin was Kalari, a species that looked delicate to human eyes. He had smooth pale blue skin, large dark eyes, and thin arms that ended in three-fingered hands. He wore a simple learning sash across his chest, its symbols glowing faintly. "I finished my studies early," Turin said. "Mother is still working." Elias nodded. Salith, Turin's mother, was rarely finished early. As a xenobiologist, she worked long cycles analyzing samples from newly contacted worlds. Elias had met her months ago during a cultural exchange dinner that had gone painfully wrong for everyone except the two of them. While others argued over etiquette, Elias had listened. Salith had noticed. "You can sit," Elias said, gesturing to the bench near the viewport. Turin hurried over and climbed up, legs dangling. He stared out at the stars with open wonder like he always did. Elias took the seat beside him, leaving enough space not to crowd him. He had learned that Kalari valued distance, especially with adults outside their family unit. For a few moments, neither spoke. The station hummed quietly around them. "Human Elias," Turin said at last, "why do humans leave their homeworld so often?" Elias considered the question. Turin's questions were never simple, even when they sounded that way. "Curiosity," Elias said. "Sometimes hope, sometimes because staying hurts more than leaving." Turin tilted his head. "My people do not leave unless duty demands it." "I know," Elias said gently. "Humans are different that way." Turin studied him, eyes reflecting the starlight. "Different is not bad," he said. "My mother says different is how new ideas are born." Elias smiled. "Your mother is very smart." "Yes," Turin agreed. Then, after a pause, "she says you are kind." The words landed softly, but they stayed. Elias felt a familiar tightness in his chest. He had heard that word before from other species, usually with surprise. Humans were often described as loud, stubborn, or reckless. Kind was less common. "I just try to be decent," Elias said. Turin swung his legs. "Decent means you stay and listen." Elias looked at him, surprised. "Does it?" "Yes," Turin said with quiet certainty. "Many adults do not." Elias didn't know what to say to that. Instead, he nodded and let the silence return. They were still there when Salith arrived. She moved with the calm grace typical of her species, her long coat folded neatly over her arms. When she saw Elias and Turin together, her expression softened. "I hope he is not bothering you," she said. "Not at all," Elias replied. "He's teaching me about stars." Turin straightened proudly. "Human Elias listens." Salith's eyes flicked to Elias, something unreadable passing through them. "That is rare," she said. They walked together toward the residential ring. Turin stayed close to Elias' side, not touching but clearly choosing his position. Other species noticed. They always did. At the doorway to their quarters, Turin hesitated. "Will you come again tomorrow?" he asked. "If you want me to," Elias said. Turin nodded once firmly and went inside. Salith lingered. "You are very patient with him," she said. "He's easy to talk to," Elias replied. He lost his father, Salith said quietly. The council declared it an unfortunate necessity. Elias clenched his jaw. He had read the reports: border conflict, calculated loss, words that meant nothing to a child. "I'm sorry," he said. "So am I," Salith replied. Then she inclined her head. "Good rest, human Elias. Good rest, Salith." That night, Elias lay awake longer than usual. Turin's words echoed in his mind. "You stay and listen." He wondered when staying had become something special instead of expected. The next few cycles passed much the same. Elias and Turin talked near the viewport or in the public gardens where artificial sunlight warmed the air. Turin asked about Earth. Elias answered honestly, even when the truth was complicated. He spoke of oceans and storms, of cities and quiet towns, of people who argued loudly and loved fiercely. "Humans adopt," Turin said one day, sitting cross-legged in the grass-like growth. "They take children not born to them." "Yes," Elias said, "sometimes." "Why?" Elias thought of his sister back on Earth, raising a child she hadn't given birth to. "Because family is not only blood," he said. "It's choice, responsibility." Turin was silent for a long time. "My people do not choose family," he said finally. "It is decided." "That can be safe," Elias said carefully. "But choice can be powerful too." That evening, as the station lights dimmed into the soft blue of rest cycle, Elias found himself alone with Turin again. The viewport showed a dense starfield, brighter than usual. Turin sat unusually close. "Human Elias," he whispered, voice trembling just a little, "may I ask something important?" Elias turned fully toward him. "Of course." Turin looked down at his hands. "My mother has been observed by the state collective." Elias felt a chill. "Observed? She has refused bonding offers," Turin said. "They say a unit without balance is unstable." Elias understood enough of Kalari law to know what that meant. Children without a recognized family structure were reassigned, raised by the state, efficient, cold. "My mother is sad," Turin continued. "She does not say it, but I see it." Elias' chest tightened. "I'm sorry, Turin," Turin swallowed. Then he looked up, eyes shining. "She smiles more when you are there." Elias opened his mouth, unsure where this was going. "My mother likes you," Turin whispered. The words came out in a rush, as if courage might fail him if he waited. He leaned closer, voice barely audible over the hum of the station. "Will you be my dad, human?" The universe seemed to pause. Elias stared at the boy, every diplomatic training screaming at him to be careful. This was not a simple question. In Kalari culture, words shaped law, intent shaped fate. "Turin," Elias said slowly, keeping his voice gentle, "that is a very big thing to ask." "I know," Turin said. "That is why I asked quietly." Elias looked out at the stars, then back at the child who trusted him enough to ask. He thought of Earth, of choice, of responsibility. "I can't answer that right now," Elias said honestly, "but I promise you something." Turin waited. "I will stay," Elias said. "I will listen, and I will do what I can to protect you." Turin's shoulders relaxed just a little. "That is enough," he said. Somewhere deep within Helioc's gate, systems continued their steady rhythm. Ships came and went. Species argued and traded. But for the first time, the galaxy had been asked a question it was not ready to answer. The question did not fade with the station lights. It followed Elias Ward through corridors, meetings, and sleepless hours. He carried it like a fragile object, afraid that one wrong move might break something important. He did not see Turin for 2 cycles after that night. Salith had requested additional lab time, and Elias respected the distance. Still, he noticed the empty bench near the viewport. He noticed how quiet the garden felt without small footsteps beside him. When the summons arrived, Elias knew it was connected. The message bore the seal of the Kalari State Collective. Formal, precise, unfriendly. He read it twice before standing. As a human diplomat, he had attended many hearings, but this one felt different. This one was personal. The chamber assigned for the meeting was cool and pale, designed to calm Kalari minds. 3 observers waited inside, their robes marked with thin silver lines. Salith stood before them, posture straight, face composed. Turin was not there. Elias took his place beside her as protocol allowed. She glanced at him briefly, surprise flickering before control returned. "You are not required to attend," she said quietly. "I wanted to," Elias replied. The lead observer spoke, voice flat. "Human Elias Ward, your presence has been noted. Your involvement with subject Turin has triggered concern." Elias kept his expression neutral. "I care about the child. Care is not structure," the observer replied. "The Kelari require balance," Salith spoke then. "My unit is stable." "You refuse reassignment," the observer said. "You refuse bonding. Your offspring lacks a paternal anchor." The words were clinical. Elias felt his jaw tighten. "What happens to Turin?" he asked. The observer turned toward him. "If imbalance continues, the child will be reassigned to a collective learning group." Salith's hands trembled for a fraction of a second. Elias noticed. "That would harm him," Elias said. "Emotion is irrelevant," the observer replied. "Efficiency ensures survival." Elias exhaled slowly. "Not always." The observers exchanged looks. "Your species is known for emotional interference," one said. "That is why humans are rarely granted guardianship outside their own." Salith finally turned to Elias. "I did not ask you to be here," she said. "But I am glad you are." The hearing ended without resolution. The observers promised review. Elias knew what that meant: delay, pressure, quiet force. Afterward, Salith led Elias through a maintenance corridor away from listening devices. "They will not wait long," she said. "They expect compliance." "And if you don't comply," Elias asked, she hesitated, "they will take him." Elias felt a familiar heat rise in his chest, the same heat he had felt when reading about human orphan systems before reforms. Cold rooms, clean rules, lost childhoods. "There has to be another way," he said. "There is," Salith replied, "but it is unlikely." She explained as they walked. Kelari law allowed for external bonding under rare circumstances. A non-Kelari guardian could be recognized if they proved long-term stability, cultural respect, and emotional restraint. The process was slow and public. "And dangerous," Salith added. "If rejected, the collective accelerates reassignment." Elias stopped walking. "You didn't tell me this before." "I would not burden you," she said. "You are not responsible for us." Elias thought of Turin's voice. "You stay and listen." "I might be," he said quietly. Salith looked at him fully then, something raw breaking through her calm. "Do not say that lightly." "I won't," Elias said. "That's why I need time and help." He contacted Earth that same cycle. The response surprised even him. There were no threats, no orders to withdraw. Instead, there were questions. Legal experts wanted details. Cultural specialists requested recordings. One message stood out from a senior human counselor. "Humans choose family, Elias. If you choose this, you will not stand alone." Support arrived quickly. Not ships or soldiers, but documents, case studies. Histories of human adoption across cultures. Proof that human bonding did not erase identity, it protected it. The collective noticed. Observers increased. Whispers followed Elias through public halls. Other species watched with curiosity, some with concern. Humans were known for persistence, but this was different. This was intimate. Elias finally saw Turin again in the gardens. The boy froze when he noticed Elias, then hurried over, eyes wide. "You came back," Turin said. "I said I would," Elias replied. Turin studied his face carefully. "Are you in trouble?" Elias smiled softly. "Maybe a little." Turin considered this. "Trouble comes when things matter." Elias laughed quietly. "You're wise beyond your years." They sat together, closer than before. "My mother is afraid," Turin said. "She thinks I do not notice." "I notice," Elias said, "and I'm doing something about it." Turin's fingers curled into the fabric of his sash. "Does that mean?" It means, Elias said carefully, that I am willing to stand up and say you matter to me. Turin's eyes filled, but no tears fell. Kellari children were taught control early. That is what fathers do, Turin said. Elias swallowed. Sometimes, he agreed. The next announcement echoed through Helioc's gate. Human Elias Ward formally declared intent to pursue guardianship recognition under Kellari law. The station erupted. Species debated. Analysts speculated. Some mocked the idea. Others feared precedent. Humans adopting humans was one thing. Humans crossing species lines was another. The collective scheduled a review tribunal. Salith watched Elias read the notice. If this fails, she said, they will not forgive interference. Elias met her gaze. If I do nothing, they take him. Silence stretched between them. You are not obligated, she said. I know, Elias replied. That's why this matters. That night, Elias lay awake again, staring at the ceiling of his quarters. He thought of Earth, of his sister, of the idea that family was built by action, not origin. He recorded a message to Turin just in case. I don't know how this will end, he said, voice steady. But I want you to know that asking me was brave. And whatever happens, you were right. Staying matters. He did not send it yet. The tribunal date approached. Observers grew colder. Pressure mounted. But Elias did not step back. For the first time, the galaxy was not just watching humanity. It was being challenged by it. The tribunal chamber was larger than Elias expected. It was designed to impress, with wide open space and high curved walls that glowed softly with shifting symbols. Seats for dozens of species rose in gentle tiers. Cameras hovered silently, broadcasting the hearing across Helioc's gate and far beyond it. Elias stood at the center platform alone. Salith sat behind a translucent barrier reserved for observers. Her face was calm, but Elias could see the tension in her posture. Turin was beside her, feet not quite reaching the floor, hands folded tightly in his lap. When Turin saw Elias look his way, he gave a small nod. It was not fear in his eyes. It was trust. The Kellari Council entered without ceremony. 5 figures took their places, their presence filling the chamber with quiet authority. This tribunal will determine, the lead counselor announced, whether human Elias Ward is eligible to serve as a recognized guardian to a Kellari minor. The words echoed. Elias straightened his shoulders. He reminded himself to breathe. You may speak, the counselor said. Elias stepped forward. I am not here to claim ownership, he began. I am here to claim responsibility. A ripple of murmurs moved through the audience. Kellari law values balance, Elias continued. So does human culture. We express it differently, but the goal is the same. A child who is safe, a child who is seen. One counselor tilted their head. Humans are known for emotional excess. Yes, Elias said simply. We feel deeply, but feeling is not weakness. It is how we commit. Another counselor spoke. Commitment fades. Not for us, Elias replied. When humans choose family, we don't measure the cost first. We measure what happens if we walk away. The council allowed other species to speak. A tall avian diplomat rose. Humans are unpredictable. If allowed this bond, others will follow. Chaos will result. Elias listened without interrupting. A scaled merchant representative added, cross-species bonding risks cultural erosion. Then a human representative was called. She was older, gray-haired, her voice steady. Human history is filled with adoption, she said. Not as charity, but as survival. We learned early that blood alone does not keep a child alive. People do. Data screens lit up around the chamber, studies, records. Images of families that did not match by biology but matched by care. The council watched in silence. Still, Elias could feel the doubt in the air. Logic battled logic. Tradition pressed hard. Then the lead counselor spoke again. The child may speak. Gasps rippled through the chamber. Salith stiffened. He is young, she said. The law allows it, the counselor replied. The child's voice is relevant. Turin stood slowly. The platform adjusted to his height. He looked very small in the vast chamber. He did not look at the council first. He looked at Elias. Elias met his gaze and gave a small nod. Turin turned to the council. "I was told to speak truth," he said. His voice was soft, but it carried. "So I will." He took a breath. "My father died because rules were followed without question." The chamber grew still. "My mother follows the rules," Turin continued. "But rules did not hold me when I was afraid." Some counselors shifted uncomfortably. "Human Elias stays," Turin said. "He listens. He does not leave when things are hard." He paused, gathering courage. "I do not need perfection, I need someone who chooses me." Silence pressed down like weight. "That is what a father is," Turin finished. For a long moment no one spoke. The council recessed. Time stretched painfully. Elias remained standing, muscles aching, heart pounding. Salith reached through the barrier and placed her hand against it as close as she was allowed. "You gave him hope," she said quietly. "Whatever happens, thank you." Elias nodded, unable to speak. When the council returned, their expressions were unreadable. "The tribunal recognizes," the lead counselor said, "that human bonding behavior differs from Kalari norms." Elias held his breath. "We also recognize," the counselor continued, "that stability is not achieved by structure alone." Murmurs spread. "This case sets precedent," another counselor added, "and precedent carries risk." The lead counselor raised a hand. "But stagnation carries greater risk." Elias felt his knees weaken. "The request for guardianship," the counselor said, "is approved on provisional status." The words hit like a wave. Salith let out a sharp breath. Turin's eyes widened. "Human Elias Ward will be recognized as co-guardian under monitored conditions," the counselor continued. "Cultural education will be mandatory. Emotional safeguards will be reviewed." Elias bowed his head. "I accept all conditions." The council stood. "This tribunal is concluded." The chamber erupted. Some cheered. Others argued. Analysts spoke rapidly into recorders. Across the station, screens replayed Turin's words again and again. In the days that followed, the effects spread faster than anyone expected. Requests arrived from other stations. Inquiries from species who had never considered alternatives to their systems. Humans were asked questions they had never been asked before. How do you choose family? How do you stay when it hurts? How do you raise someone who is not like you? Elias and Salith attended sessions together. They learned each other's customs slowly and carefully. Elias made mistakes. He apologized. He learned again. Turin watched it all. One evening, as they walked through the garden, Turin stopped. "You did not have to do this," he said. Elias knelt to meet his eyes. "I know." "Why did you?" Turin asked. Elias thought for a moment. "Because when you asked me, I realized I already cared. And once humans care, walking away hurts more than staying." Turin considered this. Then he leaned forward and rested his forehead briefly against Elias' shoulder. A Kalari gesture of deep trust. Observers recorded it. Across the galaxy, something shifted. Humanity had not won through strength or fear. It had won by staying. And the stars were paying attention. The changes did not arrive all at once. They came quietly, like dawn light creeping across a dark room. After the tribunal, Elias Ward's life slowed and accelerated at the same time. There were fewer dramatic moments, fewer public speeches, but more responsibility than he had ever carried before. Guardianship was not a title. It was 1,000 small choices made every day. Turin moved some of his belongings into Elias' quarters, though Kalari custom required he keep a separate rest space. Elias respected that. He learned when to speak and when silence was better. He learned that Kalari children processed emotion inwardly, not outwardly like humans. Sometimes that was hard. One evening, Turin returned from a collective learning session unusually quiet. He sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the floor. Elias waited. Minutes passed. "They asked why I chose a human," Turin said at last. Elias felt a familiar tightness. "What did you say?" "I said I did not choose a species," Turin replied. "I chose a person." Elias exhaled slowly. "That was brave." Turin shook his head. "It was honest." That answer traveled far. Across Helioc's gate, discussions changed tone. Where once humans were described as unstable, they were now described as consistent, stubbornly present, difficult to push away. Other children noticed too. A young Threxian orphan watched Elias help Turin with language studies and asked the caretaker why no one stayed like that for them. A Varn refugee mother requested human oversight for her children's relocation, citing emotional continuity. At first, the council resisted. Then the data started to pile up. Children under human guardianship adapted faster, trauma markers reduced, cultural identity did not vanish. It strengthened. The galaxy did not like being wrong. Salith watched all of this with quiet wonder. One night she and Elias stood together near the viewport, Turin asleep in the adjacent room. "You changed the equation," she said. Elias shook his head. "Turin did. He asked the question," Salith said. "You answered it with action." Elias stared at the stars. "I was afraid every step of the way." "That is why it mattered," she replied. Months passed. The provisional status remained but no longer felt fragile. Elias attended parenting briefings designed for a dozen species. He learned dietary needs, sensory boundaries, and emotional cues that were invisible to human eyes. He learned when Turin needed space. He learned when Turin needed presence. One day, Turin brought home a small carved object from school. It was imperfect, asymmetrical, clearly made by inexperienced hands. "It is a symbol," Turin said, "of chosen bond." Elias accepted it carefully. "Thank you. You keep it," Turin added. "So you remember." Elias smiled. "I don't think I could forget." The final review came quietly. No massive tribunal, no broadcast, just a sealed message from the council. Guardianship status confirmed, permanent recognition granted. Elias sat down when he read it. His hands shook. Turin noticed immediately. "What is wrong?" Elias looked up, eyes shining. "Nothing," he said. "Everything is right." Turin stared at him for a long moment. Then he stepped forward and wrapped his arms around Elias' torso, careful but firm. Kelari did not hug often. Observers pretended not to see. Years moved forward. Turin grew taller. His voice deepened. His questions became sharper, more complex. Elias answered what he could and admitted when he could not. That mattered most. At the Galactic Academy entrance ceremony, Turin stood among hundreds of young beings from across known space. He wore the colors of the Kelari, but on his sash was a small human symbol, officially recognized now as a sign of cross-species guardianship. Elias watched from the crowd, heart heavy and proud. Salith stood beside him. "You did well," she said. "We did," Elias replied. Turin found Elias afterward. "They asked me what I want to study," he said. "And," Elias asked. "Intercultural systems," Turin replied. "So no child has to be moved like cargo again." Elias nodded, emotion tightening his throat. "That sounds like you." Turin hesitated. Then he spoke quietly. "The galaxy feared humans would change us." Elias smiled faintly. "They still do." Turin's eyes shone. "They were right." He paused, "but they were wrong about how." As Turin walked away toward his future, Elias remained where he was, looking up at the stars. Humanity had been known for many things across history: war, exploration, defiance. Now slowly a new reputation spread. When no one else would stay, humans did. When systems failed, humans filled the gap with care. When rules said impossible, humans asked, "Why not?" It was not loud. It was not glorious. But across the galaxy, children slept a little safer knowing that somewhere a human might choose them. And for humanity, that was more than enough.